What's going on, guys? This is Luke Mindpower, and welcome to another episode. It's so great to be back. This is the start of season 2, and wow, what a journey I have been on. I've had a couple of months off, and I've done so many different things, but I'm going to talk to you about why I decided to go to the Shaolin Temple. If you follow me, then you would have seen my journey from November to February. And you would have seen a lot of what was going on at the Shaolin Temple. You would have seen me wearing the monk suit. You would have seen me training. You would have seen me getting smashed by a bamboo stick in the stomach. You would have seen me crawling on my hands and legs, crawling around the temple. So there was a lot happening at that place, and I'm going to delve into this whole experience about why I decided to go to the Shaolin Temple and what it actually did for my growth and to put me in my power place. And so let me take you back to 2008 in February. This was my let's say spiritual awakening, or the birthing of my new self. And so basically I was making these decisions really drastically, actually, because my first instinct was that I wanted to move to Poland. As soon as I made that decision, I connected with a friend of mine. Shout out to you, PJ, if you're listening to this. And he mentioned to me that he wanted to move to Poland as well. And so as soon as he said that, then he started talking to me about doing something the following year before going to Europe and moving. And he wanted to go to Thailand and go to this Muay Thai kickboxing place. And that's something that interested me. And I was like, wow, that sounds interesting. That sounds amazing. Imagine going somewhere for a month and then just training and eating well and getting that fitness back. You know, I'd still at the time been drinking a lot of alcohol and abusing drugs as well. And so I was not in my power place. I was not connected with myself. I was not loving on myself at all. Really unconscious about that. I really thought that by going to the gym, that was enough. Didn't matter what I was eating or drinking or drugs I was using. And so this really felt the right thing for me to do. And so as I continued on every single day after that conversation, I remember watching a documentary on Netflix on Bruce Lee. And so after watching that documentary, I can't remember what it was, but it made me go onto the internet, and I typed in Kungfu school. And then all these schools came up in China. And so from that, I was like, started to research and have a look at all these different schools. And I found one. And so I sent them an email and said, look, this is where I'm at in my life and this is what I want to do. And I received a response. And so, yeah, I was very excited about it, but that's all that happened at that point. Nothing went further. And so as I continued on my journey, I started thinking about, okay, I'm going to move to Poland. What am I going to do there? Then I decided, instead of, I had two things that I said, what do I love? You know, that was the money question. And I hope that you think about this today as you're listening, to think about what you're doing in your life right now and question yourself whether or not you're doing what you love. Right? If you were not getting paid for your job right now, would you still want to do it? And if it's not something that you're passionate about or you love, then I guarantee that you will quit that job because you're not going to do it for free. Right? And so this is the hardest question and hardest experience that we all have to deal with in our lives, is working for someone or working in a job that you hate and that you're just doing it to pay the bills. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, to inspire you, to motivate you, to help you rediscover who you truly are, because I truly believe that everybody has a purpose. everybody has their own passions, and it takes that courage and strength and confidence within yourself and that trust to say, you know what, Nana, I am better than this. I can find what I'm truly passionate about. I can find my purpose. I can start taking action on myself, and I can discover what it is that I was sent here to do. And so through those questions that I asked myself, what do I love? Two things came up. I love rapping, and I love going to the gym. And I wasn't really a gym freak either. It was just insecurities with my self-image, right? That I never felt good enough. And so I would go to the gym to be bigger. And I look at some of my photos now, because I've lost about 10 kilos since I went to the Shaolin Temple. I look at some of my photos from what I looked like 2 years ago. I was a beast. I was like, had huge shoulders and biceps and legs and everything. And I was still unhappy. I still was insecure. I still looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't love myself. I still wanted to be bigger. I wasn't big enough. It's crazy, man. It's so crazy. And so I said, I'm going to open a gym. So from that point on, I started researching. Then that led me to my next thing, that I started doing a speaking course, because I had a big fear of that. But let's fast forward, because I'm not going to go into all of my whole journey. I want to get you back to how I got to the Shaolin Temple. So through this process, that whole year, and then next year was 2019 was another massive year. And then I get to the point where I come back from Europe from my cousin's wedding, and I get an offer to go and speak at a conference in Florida. And I've never spoken to like a large group of people, like could be 100, 200, 300 people, right? This was something new, but somebody saw my content and was very intrigued, interested, and said, hey, we want you to speak on stage. I'm like, sweet, let's do it. I was ready to take action, even though I was afraid, right? Because this is who I am, right? How can you show up on social media, do all this speaking, but then you get offered to speak and to get paid for it as well, and you're afraid to do it? You don't want to get up. And this is the breakthrough that you have to actually make by pushing through that fear, that self-doubt, that sense of lack, that you're not good enough, right? That you won't be able to deliver. So there I was preparing myself. And then a couple of weeks before the event, unfortunately, the event got canceled. And I didn't know what was going on until a few weeks later. And so my fallback was to go to the Shaolin Temple, because I was already thinking about it. And I was like, okay, once I do that, then I'm going to go. And so as soon as it got canceled, that was the first thing that I did. Bang. I was in contact with the ShaolinTemple.com, Shaolin Temple in Kunming in China. And they basically gave me the green light. And a week later, bang, I was gone. So let me share with you a little bit about my transformation, my awakening, my reconnection with my soul, and doing in life what you really, really believe in and what is right for you, no matter what anyone says, because this is the challenge in our lives. And this is something that I have been challenged with. But the more that I take action on myself, the more that I do things and follow my heart and experience things that I feel are right for me, the more that your family and the people that you love slowly start to understand and accept you for who you are. Because at the beginning, it's confusing. It's in a sense unfamiliar. It doesn't make sense, right? And so when I started saying, even I had a couple of people in my family, when I told them I'm going to the Shaolin Temple, didn't make sense to them. Like, why do you need to go there for? You've done so much already. You've grown so much. You've experienced America. You've been training with Lisa Nichols. You went to all these conferences. You spoke in Chicago. What more personal growth do you need? Why would you need to go to the Shaolin Temple and live there? And this was not the resistance or questions that I wanted to hear, right? I wanted to have all of my family just say, wow, go for it. We're so happy for you. And this is the uncommonality of what you have to do and what you have to put yourself through, that when you believe something and you have a vision and you feel connected to something, understand that people around you, no matter how close they are, no matter how much you want them to support you, they won't get it at the time. It doesn't make sense to them. It's confusing. It's unfamiliar, right? And anything that I know, when something's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable. It's foreign. It doesn't make sense, right? Because we're so used to what we know. And what we know is what we know. And so what we know is comfortable. And so it makes sense. And so when I said that I'm going to go to the Shaolin Temple because I want to spend time alone, I want to learn something new, I want to experience martial arts, didn't make sense to people that love me. And I felt that, I felt that. And towards the departure, one thing that I was living through at the time, I was living with my sister and my brother-in-law, and I was really closed. I was very, very, not standoffish, but I was just so invested in doing all my podcast episodes. I was locked in my room. I was just focusing on my social media. I was just focusing on my brand and creating all my t-shirts, and everything that I've got that's affiliated with myself. And I wasn't spending any time with my family at all. I didn't have time for my friends. I haven't had time for anyone. It's just been like a full investment into myself, right? And so the one thing that I came to learn before I left was that what had actually happened at that point in time with my journey was that I'd formed a disconnection with my family, with the people that I was living with. And this disconnection, even though you would see them maybe once a day and say, hey, what's going on? Hey, whatever. There was never that deep and meaningful communication that I normally had in the past with them. And so this disconnection then formed a reactive nature to our understanding of each other. And so anything that sometimes was said to me, I was questioning it and I wasn't understanding it, or I wasn't seeing the sarcasm, or I wasn't seeing the funny side of it, because I just wasn't connected with my family because I was so invested into myself. And so there was this point before I was leaving that I felt like people were having a go at me. And I felt like something that my sister said to me about, oh, you're shaving your head to look like the monks or whatever, or something else. I don't know. She said something about my hair. And then I remember my brother-in-law saying something about my t-shirts and the price and all that. And so I was very protective over myself. And anything that anyone said about me or about what I'm doing, I really had a negative reaction to their way of communication. And so I was triggered, and I was emotionally triggered at this point. And I felt really, really uncomfortable. I didn't feel happy at all. I was really frustrated. I was hurting, and I couldn't understand why. And so as I sat down at the table, I said, let's have a talk. And so I spilled it all out, and I expressed myself, and I said, all I want is for people to believe in me and support me and not to question what I'm doing, because I really felt the resistance of the lack of understanding of why I was going to the Shaolin Temple. But that's not their fault. Again, You know, I came to realize after that time where I actually started communicating with them that it was partially my fault because I didn't take the time to let them into my world for them to understand how I feel and what I'm doing. Right. And it's not even to say that it was wrong the way that I did it, but this is how relentless, this is how persistent and dedicated I was to my own personal growth, that I'd completely disconnected myself from people that I completely love and that I'd been connected with emotionally for so many years. So this is all it is. It's a reflection of how much do I want my dream? How much do I want to achieve my success? How much do I want to achieve my personal growth? And what it does, it forms a disconnection with your friends and your family. And that is probably one of the hardest things to do. But it's the key to understanding how you can fix that is communication. Because now I've been able to open my heart. I've been able to be vulnerable. I've been able to be transparent, and I've been able to speak my truth to my family in a way where they understand me now better because I'm showing my truth. I'm showing my tears. I'm showing my emotion. And by showing that, it's being a mirror for them to see, wow, this is real shit. This is his real life. This is him loving himself, taking action, believing himself, and doing exactly what's right for him. And it takes time, because the more that you do that and you push yourself into that true center, that divine core love that you are and what you believe in, slowly, the people that you love will understand you, but it takes time. And so from that point on, I left and I went to the Shaolin Temple. And I arrived there, had no idea where I was, caught a taxi, and I thought that I was going into the mountains. And I'm sitting in this taxi, and it's been about 40 minutes. And I knew that it takes about 40 minutes because that's what it said on the information sheet. And so I'm sitting in this taxi, and this guy's driving. It's been 40 minutes, and I'm starting to get a little bit worried because I can't speak the language. And I've given him the address, but there's no mountains around. And I'm like, where are these mountains? And so he stops in front of these big gates, and he points and he goes, yeah, get out. And I'm like, nah, bro, this is not the right place. And he keeps pointing, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to get out. Must be the right place. And nice enough, I left my neck pillow from the airplane in the taxi, and he came after me and raced after me when I left the taxi to come and give it back to me. How nice is that? What a gentleman, He could have just taken that for himself. So as I continued on, I started reading the instructions, and I saw that it said, go straight. When you hit the center of the ancient town, keep going straight towards the Shaolin Temple. And I saw the temple, and I kept going straight. And as I walked up the stairs with my heavy suitcase, I kept going. I still had no idea where I was or what I was doing. But I got up the stairs, and then all of a sudden I saw the Shifu, which is the master, the teacher, Kung Fu teacher. And he looked at me and he said, Kung Fu? And I said, yes. And he said, come on. And so he found me at the wrong temple, because I was at the wrong temple, and he took me to the place where I was going to live. And so I followed him, and this is the beauty, I guess, about the whole experience of doing things that you have absolutely no idea where you are, what you're doing. You can't even speak the language, and it's unfamiliar. And the more that I've learned to do the things that are unfamiliar, the more that you really amplify your experience of life. And I know that, you may have your yearly rituals of going on holidays and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's amazing if you do that, because I see that so much value in the traveling aspect of going to different countries, experiencing different cultures, seeing how people live, but more so not just going to a hotel, sitting by the pool, drinking cocktails. That's nice, right? But experiencing something and a way of life in a completely foreign country where you've never been there, and you live there like how other people live, that's a different ball game. You know, because especially living in Australia, I mentioned this many times, we're so blessed. We're so grateful. I'm looking outside, blue skies, it's winter and it's 22 degrees. Like, how does that work? And so it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful to have the luxury of having a laptop, having this phone that's amazing, having a bedroom, having my bed to sleep on, having a fridge, having food to eat. You're like, we have such an abundance of luxury in Australia. And so going to China really opened my mind to how blessed I actually am. And as I got into the Shaolin Temple, I walked through there. There were people singing the Chinese music and some opera singers in the outside of the Shaolin Temple. And then we walked inside and there I was. And I was like, wow, okay. And I'm looking around and then I get introduced to a couple of Kung Fu students. And then one of the Kung Fu students, Dee, she's been there for 2 years and she started to show me around where we eat, where I'm going to sleep, where the toilets are, where the tea room is, where people hang out. And you start seeing students who are practicing their Kung Fu in the courtyard of the temple. And so, yeah, at the beginning, it was just so much to take in. You didn't really know how to understand it all, but you just kind of soak it all in, right? And eventually I found my room and I met my roommate, Zanoon Nazari, Dr. Zanoon from the UK, originally from Iran. And I met him and immediately we connected and it was amazing. One of the best experiences, and I'll talk about him a lot, but one of the best experiences that I've had living with someone for 3 months. Incredible bloke. And so the moment that we started, the next day, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, putting on my Kung Fu suit, it was pretty cold in the morning as well, sleeping on a wooden bed, having to go to the toilet and squat. Like, that was hard for me. You're so used to sitting on the toilet and that's relaxing, right? You just sit there when you got to do your number 2, your business. And here I was in China having to get uncomfortable to get comfortable again. And that's what it is. That's a beautiful analogy, right? In order for you to grow, in order for you to learn something new or develop a new skill, you have to get uncomfortable in order to get comfortable. So get used to being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And so I had to get used to squatting for 3 months. Not only is it amazing for your hips, it's so good for you, for your stretching and for your body, but it was so annoying. It pissed me off. Like, it was just frustrating. You know, I didn't want to do it, but I didn't have a choice, right? And that's part of the Kung Fu experience. And so having to go to the bathroom at 2 a.m. in the morning, every night, like I'd wake up at like 2 and I have to go to the toilet. And so there you find yourself like going through like a obstacle course through the temple. Like, it's at least like 30 or 40 meters away, the bathroom from my room. So 2 o'clock in the morning, there I am walking through, and you've got these different Buddhist statues around, and it's peace and quiet. And yeah, it was just, I just remember so many times just walking through that temple at night, and it was just peace and going to the toilet. But the other thing that was interesting was sitting and sleeping, in the bed. You know, I had my, what's it called? The mosquito net. That's it. I had a mosquito net because the mosquitoes were coming, and I was just like, man, they were so big too and noisy. And when you were sleeping at night, it was peace and quiet. You could hear them trying to get through the net. Zzz, so that was interesting too, but sleeping on a wooden bed was tough as well. Again, you had to get used to being comfortable, but first you had to get uncomfortable, because I'd never slept on a wooden bed, right? And so that was another experience that I had to get used to. But more so, let me take you through a daily routine of what I had to go through in the Shaolin Temple, and then I'll move on to telling you how it really changed my life. You wake up at 6 o'clock. I used to wake up, put my uniform on, go into the tea room, put the kettle on, and make some porridge with banana and honey, and sit with a couple of the guys and have a conversation at about 6 a.m. At 6:55, we would have to line up. So we'd all line up, and there'd normally be 2 lines because there was a lot of us. And it was all, if there was 15 or 20 of us, then it was smallest person to the tallest person. And then the Shifus would come out at 7 o'clock, and we would have to count. So E, R, Sun, Se, Wu, Liu, Chi, Ba, Jo. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have to keep going. Everybody has to say their own number, right? And so I would always be like second last or last, because I was one of the tallest. So it took me about a month and a half to learn my number and to learn those numbers, even though you're hearing every day. It's just like, as soon as you hear different language, it's challenging, you know, but eventually I learned it. And so I was always getting other guys to help me to say the number. And so you count the numbers, and then the Shifus go, okay. And then we go and we walk in one line outside of the temple to go to another temple to eat breakfast. And so you would have a roster as well. So there'd probably be 3 or 4 people who would be on food for the day at the canteen. And so you would be serving the food. And so you in the canteen, you have all the men on one side and all the women on the other side. And it's all these wooden tables, wooden benches, and you'd sit down and you'd get served your food. And basically what food it was vegetables and rice, bit of stir fry, and whatever fruit there was, it was just what was donated from the public to the temple. So sometimes there was fruit after lunch, sometimes there wasn't, or after breakfast, sometimes there wasn't any fruit at all. So you just have the breakfast, and once you're done, you get your stuff, you bow, and then you go and wash your bowls or plates and your forks or your chopsticks. So we'd finished up with that. Then you go back to the temple, and then you've got your roster, where it tells you what you're cleaning for the day. So, you could be on the temple or one of the other temples, and you'd have to sweep the floors with the brooms, right? Clean up all the leaves and all that kind of stuff. So basically, in the morning after breakfast, you're cleaning everything. Everything is getting cleaned, whether it's your room and whatever it is that you're rostered on. So we would clean, and then after we would clean, again, we'd probably have 20 minutes after we finished that. There would be cleaning of the toilets, cleaning of the tea room, mopping, and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I fell in love with cleaning, because we're just cleaning all the time. And we have this saying that we used to say, when you clean your heart. And it actually started to make sense, because, that kind of form of work, normally you couldn't be bothered. Normally you don't want to clean. Normally you look at your stuff and you're like, I couldn't be bothered, man. There's dishes in the washing, the dishes are in the sink. I don't want to wash them. I don't want to vacuum the house. I don't want to clean my bedroom, all that kind of stuff. And you kind of have a negative outlook on it. And so by doing all this cleaning constantly, especially our room, it really amplified the understanding of respecting your own property, respecting yourself, respecting your things that you have on a daily basis. And it's about being grateful for your bed, being grateful for your pillow, being grateful for your blanket, being grateful for the cutlery, being grateful for your bowls and your plates and everything that you eat off, right? So being grateful for the toilet, clean the toilet, because that's where you go to the bathroom, right? So just doing that every day. And Shifu would stop us sometimes and tell us, if our room is not clean, go and clean it now before he checks it. Otherwise we have to do a mabu. And a mabu is where you stand up and you bend your knees, and then you stay in that position. And then you have to stay in that position for like 5 minutes if your room's not clean. And so there were some dudes that sometimes their uniform wasn't right, or someone got in trouble, they would have to stand there in front of us and do the mabu. And It hurts. It hurts. After about a minute, you're hurting, and it's really painful. And so Shifu would say, when your room is clean, your kung fu will be clean. So in other words, when your room is good, your kung fu will be good, right? And so when I came back to Australia, man, I became so aware of things out of order. You know, if I see something that's out of order, if my bed's not made, or if there's dishes in the kitchen that need to be washed, I go and do it. You know, if I need to mop the floors, if I need to vacuum or whatever, I do it with love. I do it with intention. I do it with gratitude, because these are the things in life that we take for granted and we don't appreciate. We see it as a burden, right? So when you clean your heart. When you do it with love. And it's just a deeper connection with yourself. And so then we would start our training, and what we'd do, we'd again line up at 8:30. And if there was any new students, for example, myself, the Shifu would say, "New student, come here." And I was like, "Whoa, okay." And then I had to go at the front. I didn't even know. And so I had to introduce myself. And then there started my speaking in front of people from that point on, because my speaking developed even more after that. But I basically introduced myself. I explained why I'm here, and I just look forward to meeting everybody and growing through this journey and enjoying it. And so the one thing that Shifu would always say is that he hopes that you enjoy your time here, and that you have a happy experience. But what was to come was unexpected. I didn't know. All I'd known was that I'm coming to the Shaolin Temple. I'd prepared myself 2 weeks or 3 weeks before. I stopped eating meat, and I just wanted to disconnect from the world, which is what I did when I went to America. I wanted to leave everything, and I went and lived with my cousin in Chicago for 3 months, because I just wanted to get away. And see, this is the part of self-discovery, self-rediscovery, self-reconnection, self-actualization. This is the part that a lot of us don't understand. And it's the reason why is because you're so engulfed and consumed in your daily life right now that you're in this habitual unconscious behavior, because you're so used to everything. It's the way that you are and who you are right now. And in order for you to change that, you've got to change completely. You've got to detach and disconnect yourself completely from your environment, from your natural, normal habitat, your normal surroundings. And this is, it's amazing, because I don't even know how I've been doing this. I've just been following my intuition, following my soul, following my heart and what feels right for me. It's not like I sat down and I said, okay, this is what I need to do to grow. This is what I need to do to find myself. This is what I need to do so I can be more conscious, so that I can be more self-aware, so that I can be more confident. I'm just tuning in, and I knew it. In order to reprogram my mind, I needed to leave. I needed to disconnect from my world that I'd been living with, from my family, from my friends, from people that know me, from people that I communicate with on a daily basis. Because that's where we're getting lost. Because we're so invested in everybody else's world and life that we never, ever, ever take the time to spend time with ourselves, to understand ourselves, to study ourselves, to ask ourselves why we get emotional at this certain point or during this conversation. Why do we feel the way we feel? Why do we think the way we think? Who are we? And so that was a powerful experience, again, about disconnecting myself. And I went to Chicago. And then this was another one, because I just felt it again. I needed to leave. I needed to go away. It didn't make sense to my family. And when my mum, being a strict Catholic, heard that I'm going to a Buddhist temple, she was like, whoa, I'm not happy about that. And so living there, after introducing myself, the next thing we did every single day, Monday to Friday, was stretch. Something I never, ever did when I went to the gym. I always just got there, bang, let's do chest, let's do legs, let's do biceps. There was no stretching. I couldn't be bothered stretching. I was like, didn't care about that. It was just about pumping. And so every day we'd do stretching. count to 100 on one leg, count to 100 on the other leg, turn to the other side, count to another 100, count to another. So stretching and then walking around the temple, kicking your legs, doing different kicks and punches around the temple. So stretching every morning and every afternoon, because there was 7 hours of training, and each training was turned into 3.5 hour sections. So the morning training is 3.5 hours, afternoon training is 3.5 hours. And before every training session, you would stretch, right? And so the stretching would go for about 20 minutes. So you're basically stretching. And then on top of that, one section of training for the week was called power stretching, where you have 3 people together and you absolutely push the hell out of each other's legs and stretch each other to the max, right? So that stretching I've brought back to Australia, and I do stretching every single day before I start my gym. Now, before I went to the Shaolin Temple and the way that I used to go to the gym and train, I never stretched. I had lower back problems. I had a pain in my lower back. I've got one leg that's longer than the other. And I'd always been going to see an osteo to get it fixed and realigned. And when I went to the Shaolin Temple, I started to tune into my own body, and I started to understand myself as well. And as well as the Shifu saying that you are your best doctor. Not the osteo, not the chiro, not the physio, not the GP, not the psychiatrist, not all these external forms of healing, right? You are your best doctor. But it's, again, we're so disconnected from ourselves. We're so unloving with ourselves. We don't have that self-respect. We don't have that connection. We don't understand our physiology. We don't understand our psychology. And that's why we don't care about ourselves. We're programmed to live on a low vibration, to buy shit food, and to think that all these external services are there to help us, when really the person that needs to be helped is you need to help you. And so by stretching and all these other experiences that I went through, I now no longer have any pain. I don't have any lower back pain or anything like that. But let me tell you what happened during my experience. I got excited. I'm 35, so I'm not 21 anymore. My body is getting a little bit older. And so I saw the Shifus doing flips and doing acrobatics. And I was like, yeah, imagine I could do a flip and do a front flip and all this kind of stuff. And I got excited, right? And the first time I did it was all right. But come the few weeks later, I tried to do it again, and I landed on my neck. And I felt it. And I was like, damn, that wasn't right. Something went wrong there. And then from that moment on, I wasn't feeling good. Something shocked my body. Something went through my body, and I just didn't feel right. So for the next 3 hours, I was confused. I was not feeling well. I was feeling disconnected from myself. And I was sitting in the tea room, and one of the guys that was there, Michael, he just said, man, you don't look well. Do you want me to give you a massage? And so he put me on the floor and he started massaging my neck. And then from then on, again, I wasn't feeling good. And I gave myself a hot foot bath again, because they really believe in hot water. And it's really good for you if you put your feet in hot water every single day. And so I went to my room. I wasn't feeling well. And I had started to get this real bad stomach cramping and pain. And eventually I made it to the bathroom. I had a shower, and I was still feeling really lethargic, and I just felt like shit. And eventually I vomited. And I was like standing over that squatting toilet, and I felt like death, literally. But that's another story in itself. But from that experience, eventually I went to the Chinese hospital where they do Chinese medicine. And they lifted the back of my shirt up, and they saw my back was crooked. My spine was crooked. And immediately I was like, okay, let's do some work on me now. They took me upstairs, and let's say that this guy is a miracle worker. And he was like an osteo, chiro, physio, all in one. And he just started working on me. First he gave me the electrocution, electricity pulses on my back to like loosen up my muscles or whatever. And then he just started maneuvering my back, my legs, my hips, my shoulders, everything. And basically realigned my back. I went to see him for a few more sessions, but ever since that time, because I've been doing my own stretches and looking after myself, I haven't had those problems anymore. So that was amazing, as well as them giving me herbs to take for the next 2 weeks that they made up in the hospital. That was incredible. And so I drank that after every meal, and I healed myself. I was back, right? But that was a really, really challenging experience. So what happened after that? Yeah, so I experienced some interesting moments, but the speaking part of it was interesting because I took my energy into that place. I connected with people, and eventually even the Shifu, who was calling me Bruce Lee. And just before I'd got there, I was listening to Bruce Lee, his book, because I was so inspired. I was like, yes, I'm going to Kung Fu. I'm going to listen to Bruce Lee's story. And somehow the universe heard me, and the Shifu started calling me Bruce Lee. And I asked him at the end of my time at the Shaolin Temple, why did you call me Bruce Lee? And he said to me, because I felt your energy, and you have the same energy like Bruce Lee. And I was just like, wow. He's like, I felt your aura. I was like, man, that's so powerful. I received that, you know. I was grateful and humbled that he put me up there with someone like Bruce Lee, who was just a machine, a beast. And so from that moment on, Christmas came, and we didn't celebrate it like, obviously the Chinese don't celebrate it like how the Western world does. And so he asked me if I wanted to be the host for the Christmas party. And I was like, sure. And that came with the notion of say yes to life, life will say yes to you. So as soon as you say yes to life, the universe hears you, and then they bring you opportunities. So the more that you say yes, the more that you take action, the more that you get out of your comfort zone, opportunities come, and you have to say yes. And the more that you say yes, the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you grow. So he says, do you want to speak? I said, yes, I'll be the host. So I spoke. Then I sang. Then I was getting up on stage. Then every Friday night, one of the Kung Fu Warrior students, shout out to you, Sasha, he said, do a speech, because they all saw that I spoke really well. And so every Friday after power training, we would have power training, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours of really, really intense cardio, in like carrying people on your back, walking around the temple, crawling around the temple, doing, what are they called? Like you're hanging off the temple with your feet, and then you got your hands, knuckles digging into the concrete, and you have to stay in that position for like half an hour. So a lot of intensity, a lot of pain, a lot of, just strong exercises that really, really push you to your limits. And after that, we would go out to the cafe and we would have smoothies. And so this became a ritual. And then I became the speaker to give a speech every single Friday night. So after that, then there was always all the experiences of getting up on stage, performing, using the Chinese dragon, running around the stages, performing for all these dignitaries and abbots and people from the temple. So that even that experience in itself was just crazy, because I was not even ready to do that. And I was so scared of even doing our grading. So, you know, you're learning the Kung Fu forms and they teach you every single day. And then eventually we got to a point where we had to do grading. So one person at a time had to go up on the stage, and the Shifus would mark you on your performance, on how good you were doing it. And even doing stuff like that was stressful, getting up in front of people. But again, it served its purpose. It was amazing. I didn't even know that I was going to a place that was going to get me out of my comfort zone like that. I just wanted to learn Kung Fu and live in that temple. But it was so much more than that. And not to mention the people that I was surrounded with. Again, I'll refer back to Sasha. I'll refer back to Zanoon. These people that I was connected with that was so motivating, inspiring, and they were uplifting your spirits every single day. As much as I'm uplifting, they felt my energy, and then it just became a ripple effect, and everybody was getting motivated every single day. And so that also amplified the understanding that you become the average of the 5 people that you hang around with. And who you surround yourself with matters, because the growth and the confidence and the energy that I took from that place, a part of it, a huge part of it, was because of the people that I was with. And that was just incredible for me. And so after doing that, it changed my life. You know, I got to a point at the end there where I'd looked back at all these different experiences, being on stage, being pushed to the limits with my fitness, just conversations that I had with people, cleaning, even being challenged with the food. Even though I didn't like the food sometimes, I still ate it and I was grateful. Sleeping on a bed with just wood, no mattress. All these different experiences have allowed me to grow, allowed me to be more grateful, allowed me to have more discipline, allowed me to grow my confidence, and understanding that repetition is the mother of skill. Tony Robbins. When you repeat something over and over and over and over again, you get damn good at it. And that's what I saw. Even though I preach that, I say that so much on my podcast, I say that so much to people. Repetition is the mother of skill. And living in the Shaolin Temple, learning Kung Fu, when I'd never learned it before, I didn't know how to do it. It was a psychological challenge with my mind saying, you can't do this, Luke. This is not who you are. Right? And I'm doing these Kung Fu forms and I'm not getting it. And it's frustrating. And you're seeing other people doing it and they're getting it and they're doing it better than you. And so you start comparing yourself to others. So there's so much teachings in this place that you take on that you actually bring back to the real world, like comparing yourself to others, like judging people that you don't even know. I used to judge people. People would come into the temple, I don't even know them. And because I've been there for 2 weeks, right, I'm more protective, right? This is the human nature, human condition, how we've been programmed. And I start judging them. I've never even seen them in my life. I start judging them. Oh, there's a new student. Oh, he looks short, weird, wearing weird clothes. I judge him. And then I find out a couple of weeks later when I've had some time with that person, or I've got to meet them, or I got to share some conversations with them, that they were just really incredible individuals. And so we've been programmed to see people only on face value. We've been programmed to judge people according to how they look, how they speak, what country they come from, what clothes they wear. And that's such an ignorant behavioral way of living. If we could only see each other from our hearts and our souls from inside, it would change the game, but we don't. And so this is one thing that I'm aware of. This is one thing that I'm unlearning as to why I was programmed that way, why I judge people, why I look at someone and I don't even know them, and I already feel like they're a bad person. But yet when I see a hot chick, I look at her and I'm like, oh my God, she's hot. And it's all automatically like a positive thing. And I don't even know who she is. And then 3 days later, I realized that she's not really what I thought she was. How does that make sense? Right? And this is where you start tuning into your mental chatter, right? Your thoughts. And you start to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are just the observer of your thoughts, and you have the conscious choice to actually decide whether or not you want to believe those thoughts or not. And so that's what I've had to tune into. And that's how I've been able to develop myself and grow from that experience, from everything that I did there. Not to mention that I took on board my interviewing skills and I interviewed the whole Kung Fu Warrior student team before I left. Again, we were in lockdown from the COVID situation. And so I was like, let's do this, man. I started interviewing everybody, and we did interviews. If you go on my Instagram page and you scroll down, you will see all the interviews from all the Kung Fu students that I shared time with. And so I basically took over the Shaolin Temple in a positive way. I went there and I learned from everybody, and I brought Luke Mind Power into the whole experience there, and took action and stood up and continued to grow myself, not only in my physical growth, not only in my spiritual connection, not only in my mental connection, not only in my consciousness, in my self-awareness, but in communicating with everybody, in understanding other people, in living that life as a Shaolin monk and appreciating the experience. It was transformational. And I know that they're closed at the moment because of the whole COVID situation, but I highly recommend it. It is such a place where you can really, really go to definitely take your awareness to a new level. Confidence. I got to a point where confidence is something that we definitely lack. And I got to a point where I was like, man, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to go back to Australia and run towards my dreams. I'm ready. And so that was my mission. When I'd finished up there, I was like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to run towards my dreams. I'm not going to walk anymore. And it takes time. It's all part of the journey. From me jumping on Instagram, doing lives for 6 months and interviewing people, continuing that path all the way, then traveling to America, then coming back, then going to Europe, then going to the Shaolin Temple, getting coached by Lisa Nichols, going to a couple of conferences, continuing to network, continuing to show up, continuing to post, continuing to share my content, continuing to create my podcast, continuing to do all these little things that you may not see in the background of what I do in order for me to grow. Every little piece is part of the puzzle. Every little piece. And it's a lot. It gets really overwhelming, especially now. I'm getting really like pumped with so much work. And this is what I say, the juice is in the journey. So make it juicy. And this is the part of your experience of chasing your dreams, living your dreams, taking action on you that most people don't appreciate because they don't see all the work, the time, the energy that you put in. But it's not about getting there quickly. Because at first I thought, I'm just going to jump on social media, do my speaking, and I'm going to be a motivational speaker, and things are just going to happen for me, and people are going to call me, and I'm going to get paid, and I'm going to be famous and rich and wealthy and all that kind of shit, and everything's just going to happen. No, it takes patience. It takes patience, and it takes growth, and it takes action, and it takes belief, and it takes trusting yourself, and it takes loving yourself. Loving yourself is the major key. When you love yourself, you can love the world. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. Something that I really, really strongly believe in. And so from that Shaolin Temple experience, I have taken away so much power to know that I am my own doctor. I can heal myself by being more conscious of what I put in my body, by moving my body, by stretching, by being able to psychologically overpower my mind to learn new things that naturally these old neural pathways need to get reprogrammed, and there is this resistance because it says, no, you can't learn this. This is too difficult. And so as you gradually go, 3 months was the perfect time. I was really, really stuck because I was thinking, damn, how long do I stay here? At first, after the first 2 weeks, I was like, man, I'm going to stay here for the whole year. I want to stay here for 6 months. I want to stay here for a long time. Imagine I could turn into like a Bruce Lee. But after about a month and a half or 2 months, I started to slowly realize that 3 months was exactly the right amount of time for me. And I had a bigger calling. I needed to use the time that I was there. I needed to connect with the people that I met. I needed to invest myself into learning to meditate, into being more conscious about my food, into repeating stuff so that you can see how that actually works when you continue to do things on a daily basis, and you build those new habits and you move your body. And when you love your body will love you back. And so from this whole experience, I've come back and been able to, again, be more in tune with who I am, own who I am more. And by doing that, it takes strength and courage to be able to open your heart. Because the bigger your heart, the bigger the stage. The bigger your heart, the bigger your life. And so now I do that, and I come from a really sacred place within myself of love, compassion, kindness, and belief that if I can transcend, transform, and rediscover myself, which is what I've done in the last couple of years, I know that now my gift can help you rediscover your light. And so I just launched my new business, which is the Ultimate Success Coach, because I am the ultimate success coach. It's not just about being a life coach. It's not just about being a relationship coach. It's about the ultimate life. And there's all these different things that come under that I can help you with, that I've been through myself. This is not about going to university or going to study. This is about something that you cannot pay for. This is about understanding that you cannot go to the supermarket and go to aisle number 7 and buy Luke Mindpower's life. Because I've had to go through my whole process. I've had to go through my heartaches and pain, my drug abuse, my alcohol abuse. I've had to go through those insecurities, lack of self, lack of confidence. I've had to go through all of that. Feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling insecure about myself, not being happy with my body, not loving my body. Going to the gym because I hated my body, because I wanted to be something that I wasn't, that I'm not. And so now I go to the gym because I love my body, not because I hate it. And so from this gives me the power now to be able to give back and to be able to show and share my life experience, knowledge, wisdom, and reconnection with my soul so that I can help you, right? Because if I can help you achieve your dreams, I will achieve my dreams. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it really valuable. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave your comments below. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on my podcast. It's a blessing to just be connected with you and share this space with you. I hope you got a lot of value from it. And if you want to send me any messages, you can just DM me or send me an email, lukemindpower@gmail.com. And you can check out my services. And if you want to get a complimentary session with me to find out how you can transform your life, love yourself, and live your dreams, jump on my website, lukemindpower.com, and you can find more information on there. Sending you a lot of love. I hope you have an amazing day wherever you are. This is Luke's Mind Power, sending you so much super, super love and blessings. Peace.